Carrie Green, welcome to Inspired by.
If I hadn't started that first business doing something that I didn't love, I would never have got to the point in my journey where Affia would have come to me. Like, it wouldn't have come to me. I've gone in these waves of like really falling off the bandwagon with it. After having kids, like there was no bloody time for anything. And even still to this day, like it feels like a struggle. It's really easy to get disconnected from my own intuition. When I had my son, and I remember I took a lot of time off, and like I would be available for the odd call, but I do feel like I wasn't present for the business at all. I do remember feeling guilty and that panic of like, I'm gonna fall behind. And that kind of panic, that started to creep in.
Welcome back to this week's episode on the Inspired by show. I'm really excited for you all to tune into this conversation that I had with the one and only Carrie Green. Now, for those of you that don't know Carrie is the founder of Female Entrepreneurs Association, which was the association that gave me the inspiration to start my career and my businesses in this industry. Now, I love this conversation with Carrie because we talked a lot about her own personal journey of starting her own businesses and the spiral that she went on during this process. We talked a lot about our upbringings and how our upbringing and parents have an impact on our future success and on our businesses. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you all think of this approach that we discussed. We also talked at length about what it's like running a business, an online business, and the BS in the industry, and also what it's like when you then want to have other things in your life, like starting a family. Carrie talked a lot about her own personal experience in having children and the impact that becoming a mum had on her businesses and how she felt about her businesses. So there's lots of incredible, inspiring stories in this episode. And with that in mind, let's jump straight in.
Carrie Green, welcome to Inspired by. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, do you know what? I'm really grateful that you've taken the time out of your very busy schedule to come on the show and share with us your important, inspiring messages. Now, Carrie, you're known by many different things. You've definitely had your very own experience of entrepreneurship and gone on to help a lot of entrepreneurs as well. What's led you on this journey of entrepreneurship?
What led me on it? Running out of money led me on it. So I started my first online business in 2005, and I was at the end of my first year at university, and I'd completely run out of money. And I remember looking around for different job opportunities, and I remember doing an interview with them to sell ice cream at Cirque du Soleil. And then an opportunity also came up for me to be a reseller and resell phone unlock codes online, which was so random. And I just decided to do that. And so I just learned all about building an online business. And in my third year, I went to night school to learn more about web development, but it was so old school back then. It was just, what was it called, like Dreamweaver or something? I can't remember now. But yeah, so did that. And so that's how I got started in the online business world. Was just because I ran out of money.
I love it. There's always a need. There's always a need rather than a passion, I find. A lot of people think, I'd love to start this business. But most of the time you need something that actually makes us take the kick, right?
Yeah. So I just needed to do it. And because I think sometimes people, like you said, start businesses because they want to do something that they love, which is obviously amazing. But I think that sometimes it's just getting started doing something that leads you on this journey that then leads you to doing the thing that you love along the way, if that makes sense. Although, I mean, to be fair, everyone is on their own journeys, so it is so different for everyone.
Yeah, you're right though. I think a lot of people, I don't know how you feel, Carrie, but a lot of people in the online space, there's this image displayed that it's like, I'm going to live my dream life and I'm going to get paid as much as I want and I'm going to live wherever I want. And I'm not saying that's not feasible, but that does set people up for this expectation of, well, I can quit my job and I can get paid to do what I love and so on. And I believe you can, but sometimes it's not all at the exact same time.
Yeah. And no, I think for most people, it is a really long journey. And also, like I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, the idea of, having an online business and it making loads of money, and you hear all the time it being thrown out about like a 6 or 7 and 8 figure business. But then the conversation I was having yesterday with someone was kind of about at what cost, because sometimes to get to that level, the what's required isn't what a lot of people want to sign up for. So I think there's a lot of misleading stuff in the online space. I do really think that obviously the internet is just incredible in terms of enabling people to be able to play around with their ideas and to the point and just experiment and try and, you know, get something off the ground. And I mean, I've seen so many people all over the world take an idea and make a lot of money with it. So it is really possible, but it isn't this overnight. It's not this overnight thing. It is a process, and that it requires a lot of effort as well, and a lot of time and dedication to it. And also a lot of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, which feels very uncomfortable, which is why I think so many people building businesses talk so much about, you know, the challenges or the frustrations they've experienced, or like childhood trauma or things like that, because I think it brings so much of your own crap to the surface that you have to deal with, because you get so uncomfortable going outside of your, you know, going out of your comfort zone so often that it's just, you really have to have so much like mental resilience. So yeah, you have to deal with all your little demons.
Yeah, and those demons, and most time we don't realize they're there until we put ourselves out of our comfort zone, right? People always say new level, new devil. It's like only then it's like, oh, I didn't know I had this demon until I've now tried this new thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And Carrie, I think I find fascinating about your story is, you know, you mentioned you needed money, which made you want to start a business. Now, most people, when they've left university or in university, they need money, they get a job. What inspired you to not get a job and to actually go, do you know what, I'm going to start this path on entrepreneurship? Was there anyone in your life, or have you always been around entrepreneurs? Like, where did that thought process come from?
My dad has always built businesses, and then my dad and my mum and dad together built a business. And so yeah, I've grown up in a very entrepreneurial like household. But I felt at the time that being able to, like, I had no idea where the business would go. I had no idea about it at all. Like, I didn't even know what flipping phone unlocking was, or you know. But it just felt like so much more of an adventure to just tinker around and see if I could figure it out. That just felt so much more fun. So yeah, I just thought I'd go for it. But my dad has been a huge influence in terms of the way I think about things, and he's been so key, I think, in helping me to make the decisions I've made.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure without him or the way I grew up whether I would have really gone down that path, to be honest.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I remember when I interviewed a mutual friend of ours, Nick James, who actually recommended you for the show, and he shared a similar thing, because yourself and him have similar similarities in that regard. The parents were both very much into personal development and got you into that at quite a young age, I believe. And so I was going to ask you about what do you think is the connection between success when, you know, with people that do have those upbringings that their parents are getting them into this quite young? Do you think that sets them up for success? Is that a big driver?
If I'm being honest, no. I don't think it sets someone up for success. I think it can set someone up for success. I think that I also think that people who have had really difficult upbringings, I think they also, sometimes you hear those people say like it really was the driver for me to kind of get out there and like make sure that I didn't put my own kids in that situation, or so no, I know plenty of people who've had entrepreneurial parents who have not gone on to do their own thing at all. So I just think it's different for everyone. And yeah, I think so many different things influence us. And yeah, so that's a really, I think it helped me, but I think that it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't necessarily shape someone to become successful.
Yeah. I think that's quite reassuring, because I like for me, and my parents, I mean, I love my parents to pieces. If they're listening to this, they're definitely not entrepreneurial either way, shape or form. And a lot of the time I do something, Carrie, and they're like, are you sure this is good? It's not safe, you know, when are you going to get a real job, you know, all the stuff that we hear. And I think it is reassuring to know that you don't have to have that great upbringing necessarily to have that success.
Yeah, no, I think I've seen so many people who've had all sorts of, from all different walks of life, all different upbringings. So I absolutely do not think that you need to have been in that environment to be able to really build a successful business. Because I think so often there's, people think that people like me can't build businesses. And so I think, which I just don't think that's true either. But I think for those, if any of those people were listening to, to listen and think, oh, well, you need to have grown up with this, you need to grown up with this, you need to grown up with this to be able to make it as a business owner. Like, it just isn't true. So.
Yeah. So anyone listening, there's still hope for us all.
Yeah, there's hope for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. And Carrie, you mentioned there your dad and the impact he's had. What sort of things did you start doing at a young age to help with these sort of beliefs and really encouraging you to work on yourself?
I mean, so when I was, I think probably about 10, he took me and my sister and brothers to this weekend retreat thingy where we stayed there, and we learned all about the power of the mind, about positive thinking. We learned about visualization. We came home with this little cassette tape of this visualization called The House on the Right Bank, where you could literally, it was like this house you created in your mind, and you could go in, and there was a shower in there where you could like shower in like a golden light and see all the negative energy going down the drain. There was what they called the editing suite, which is where you could look and see like a movie screen of your future. And so I think being so young and having that visualization and listening to that at nighttime was really powerful. And then he was forever, well, he still is, always saying, decide what you want, write it down. And so as a teenager, I created a goal folder, and I put in things of, the car I wanted to drive when I was older. I put in pictures of like the kind of house that I wanted to live in, I wanted to build my own house, and I put all these different designs in there. I got a bank statement and added like loads of zeros to the end and put that in there. And I was still in school at the time, and so I took a grade card and I changed all the grades to A's, and had a bottle of perfume in the back of the folder of how I wanted my life to smell when I was successful. And so I think through him kind of encouraging me to write things down and to dream and to do that, like, it helped me to kind of start to get clear on what I wanted. And I remember as a teenager, he bought me books on cosmic ordering. He bought me all sorts of different books, and some of them I never read. I remember once he tried to sit me in front of the TV and watch Jim Rohn. I was like, Dad, who is this old man? Like, no. And I remember he also bought me the CDs for Ask and It's Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And so he bought me a lot of that stuff. And he's also, like, we used to go a lot around to like, when there's different like shows on for personal development, or he loves spiritual stuff as well, so we would always go to like different spiritual things together. And that really, really helped me a lot. But I think as a teenager, so many, when your parents tell you to do things or whatever, sometimes it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. So there were bits of what he said that I took action on, like the goal folder, and then other bits that kind of I forgot over time. And I remember in my 20s really kind of spiraling into a bit of a hole after university. I kind of went through the whole quarter life crisis thing that I think everyone goes through, and feeling like, yes, I had a business, but it was phone unlocking and I didn't love it, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life, and I felt really isolated, and I just felt really, really, really lost. And I remember feeling like so anxious. I started getting heart palpitations, and it really was over a good few years that I felt like I was spiraling. And then that's when I started to like really revisit a lot of the stuff that he shared with me. And I remember he sent me on like this NLP program, which was really helpful, and started to really get back into the kind of personal development work again. Because I just thought like I either keep spiraling or I do something about this and I get myself back on track. So I feel like what he shared growing up has been really, really helpful. Though easy, I did forget all about it for a time, and then I really had to come back to working on myself so intentionally to help me to get on, move into a new direction, because I was just kind of spiraling and felt really, really, really low. So I'm so grateful though for all the things that he shared with me, and I've still got that goal folder somewhere to this day. It's around somewhere, and it's really cool to look at and see all the things I wrote down, and like how many of them have actually come true is crazy. So wow. Yeah, it was fun.
Now, I just want to interrupt this episode with something really exciting I want to share with you. Maybe you've been listening to this episode or watching it thinking, Chloë, I've got an inspiring story. I would love to tell my story. Maybe you're sat there like many of our guests who have an inspiring story and know you have knowledge and experience you want to share with the world, but you don't quite know how to use it to help others. Well, I've worked with over 100 authors and co-authors to share their story in books and ultimately use their knowledge and experience that they've picked up on their way to help other people all over the world. And not only have they helped other people, they've gone on to be #1 best-selling authors, speak on stages with well-known celebrities, and feature on podcasts just like this. And maybe there's a part of you that thinks, you know what, Chloë, I would love to be doing that too. Well, let me tell you a secret. It all starts with planning exactly what you want to write or share in your own book. And one thing that I've learned from working with so many different authors is that planning is the key to success. And so if there's a part of you that would like to be able to write and publish your own book, or start sharing your story, sharing your message with people that you know that could really benefit from it, then I've got something special for you. I've come up with a planner that I've used to work with all of my authors so far that helps you to get your stories out of your head and onto paper and ultimately into a published book. Now, normally that's only for our paying clients, but I'm going to be making it available as a gift to you as a loyal listener and follower of the Inspired by Show. So if you want to learn how to write your story, learn how to get your book out of your head onto paper and plan your best-selling book, then you can get access to this planner for free. All you got to do, go to www.inspiredbybooks.co.uk/planner, or to make it easier, I've popped the link in the description for you today. So click the link, enter your details, and get access to this writing planner now. I cannot wait to hear what book idea you've come up with. Now, back to the episode.
Proves it works though, right? Like I find it quite an interesting and exciting process. I still do bits like that now with a little jar and putting things in and be like, this is what I want to create. And I almost forget about it until I then go back to it and revisit it. And I'm like, oh, that's actually come true.
Yeah.
But, and you start to realize how much it works. Now, Carrie, I'm curious from your perspective. I find it really inspiring because you're not the sort of person that says, I started it and it continued to help me forever. You're very honest and you're saying, I didn't listen to all of it. And actually this bit, I maybe spiraled in that period. What would you say is the power of that continuation of doing it? Are you still actively using some of those strategies now, or is it kind of a dip in and out kind of approach?
I mean, I feel like I'm pretty sure most people are, life is busy for all of us. And so I think especially when you're running a business, you're so busy, and sometimes it feels like the business needs you to do this, needs to do this, needs to do this. And so your personal development and your self-care kind of can go out of the window because you feel like it's more urgent to sit down and create an ad or whatever than it is to sit down and do a meditation. So I find that over the years I've gone in these waves of like really falling off the bandwagon with it. Like especially like after having kids, like there was no bloody time for anything, and even still to this day, like it feels like a struggle. But so I go in these waves where I have to get again, like pull myself back on track and go back to doing the work, and just go back to kind of maintaining some kind of disciplined practice of like tuning in with myself and like slowing down to listen to like what's bubbling up inside me. I think it's when I don't, and I just go that it's really easy to get disconnected from my own intuition, and it's really easy for the overwhelm and the chaos to just take over. But so it's just a balance, and it's just a real, I don't know, it's just a practice to try and like, I don't know, you just try and get it right. But so often it's just easy to just fall off the bandwagon. But for me, it's just going back to those tools and picking them back up and trying to create that awareness around like that I don't feel good and I feel overwhelmed. I don't want to feel this way. I need to do something about it. I need to, stop and kind of course correct. So I'm forever course correcting.
Yeah. I love that term though, isn't it? Because it's like, I'm still on the course, I'm just correcting where I'm going. And for you, that was exactly what you experienced. Now, I'm curious, at what point, so you've building this phone unlocking business, then you felt like you sort of fell out of love with it, in your words, spiraling. Where did the passion for FEA come from?
So I had the idea to create like a community of women in business. I think it was in 2008, because I'd finished university by that point and I was building this phone unlocking business, and I would go and so basically I was living in an apartment in Birmingham and my second bedroom was my office, and I lived by myself, and so there would be days when I wouldn't leave the apartment and I was just working, and I felt really isolated. And I would go along to like networking events, and it would honestly be mostly full of men in suits, and there certainly wasn't any young people there. And so I would have like the occasional really off experience where someone would just completely disregard me. And I just remember thinking like, surely there's something for women. And I just wanted to create a community or get to know other people doing similar things, so we could just like get a glass of wine and sit down and just chat about our business problems. And I just couldn't find it. And so I had the idea in 2008, but I remember starting a website, and then I just thought, who the heck is gonna want this? And I felt like I had so much imposter syndrome around it, because the phone unlocking business wasn't me. I was a reseller selling someone else's service. So it was fine to sell. It was easy to sell it. But when it came to something from my heart and soul, it was my idea, it was my thing, like actually putting it out there was terrifying. And so I kind of would buy domain names, start websites, and then do nothing. And that happened for a good few years. And that was around the time when I just felt like I was really spiraling, and I felt frustrated with myself. It was like this feeling of more was bubbling up, the idea was bubbling up, and it was like I was just constantly batting it away and like so afraid to do something with it, but it kind of kept pestering me. And this is around the time when the heart palpitations started, and I felt like everything was just saying, just bloody do it, like just stop putting this off and just do it. And I was ignoring it. And then in 2011, eventually I was just like, I'm going to do it. I just had this moment where I just like knew I had to do it. And so I came up with a different name, started a different website, and just never looked back. I remember that Monday sitting at my desk and just feeling like a new energy of like, I'm going to do this now. So that's where it came from. But it was a challenge to get out of my own way to actually get it going, which I think is the case for so many people.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, there are so many people probably listening or watching this, Carrie, that are thinking, that's me. I've had that idea in my head for 3 years too. Or, and you just have to go with that feeling when it feels right. What was it like for you when you then launched this feeling, this thought, this idea that you'd had for 3 years? What happened next?
It honestly just felt really exciting. And I just started so I put the website together, and for me, building out the website and was kind of a process of just helping me to get clarity around like what I was doing. And then I started to network. So I joined like local networking groups, and I actually found some ones that were just for women by that point, which was really nice. And I met some really nice people, and I went on LinkedIn and I started reaching out to other women to ask if they had a business and if they had a story to share. And so I started this series on the blog called How She Did It. And it was crazy because like within a month or something, I had these stories flooding in from women all over the world. I remember this one person, she was in Hong Kong and she was sharing her story with me. I think she was called Emma. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I just met somebody in Hong Kong who's building a business and she's sharing her story with me. So I started publishing all these stories on the website. And then I remember starting like a little group on LinkedIn and just like networking, connecting with people. And then I remember whenever an opportunity came up or someone invited me along to something on LinkedIn, I always like said yes. I just was in a phase of just, yes, I'm just going to go for it and just see what it's about. And I remember one time being invited to be a judge on a panel, which was so random because I was like, okay, like I am no one. Why the heck am I being a judge? And I remember going down on this panel and it was at like a Google workspace in London. And I met a guy who was the head judge of the panel called Michael Heyman. And we like chatted and got on. And then I think I met him again at the next round of this competition that was going on. And he then nominated me for an award because he ran this festival called Made. And I won the award, which was crazy because I wasn't making any money. And I was up on the stage with like 26 other entrepreneurs who were all doing amazing things. And I felt like such a fraud. But I won the award and I got this helicopter mentoring session with Lord Billamoria. I remember being invited to this like summit at Chatsworth House with all these amazing entrepreneurs that were like doing so well. And again, like me thinking, what am I doing here? And this used to be a good story, not so much a good story anymore. Prince Andrew was the special guest. And I was sat on the table with Prince Andrew. And he then asked me to sit, I ended up sitting next to him having dinner. And all I kept thinking was like, you really have the Queen's teeth. Like it was so random, but it was like, what the hell? Like a few years earlier, I'd just been so stuck in my own way, going in circles. And then there I was sat next to Prince Andrew at Chatsworth House having dinner. And it was just saying, and then I got invited to Buckingham Palace to talk about entrepreneurship in the UK. And I was sat around this table with entrepreneurs. Like one of them, I think, had sold out of his business for like 800 million. I still wasn't making any money at this point. And so it just was crazy just from like, I felt like I finally gave myself permission to go for it. And I opened myself up to the opportunities and the possibilities. And I just started to make connections and have conversations. And it just led to all this cool stuff. And I've seen that happen to so many other people. I think when you've got like an idea and you just give yourself permission. And I think as well, like, I do think when it's like a real, like heartfelt idea, for me, it wasn't just about making money this time around. For me, it was about making a difference. It was about really trying to figure out how I could add value and just help people. And I think that was a game changer for me as well, just in the sense of, I think I really believe that when you're fully aligned, with you're fully aligned with what you're meant to be doing, the universe just kind of opens up. And when you say yes and you go for it, like the most amazing things can open, like opportunities and all sorts can just flow to you like with so much more ease. And which is funny because in 2009, I created a little challenge for myself called Mission to Make $1 Million in 365 days. And I wanted to make $1 million in a year. And I documented it. I set up a website and I documented the journey, and it got to like day 66 and it was my last entry. And it was basically me saying like, this is impossible. Like I'm never going to do it. And obviously didn't do it. And it's really interesting because I realized that I think, like for me, when I was making it all about me making money and me becoming a millionaire, like it was just impossible. But when I switched and I focused on how can I just show up and help other people? How can I show up and have valuable conversations? How can I just show up as the best version of me and share my ideas in the best way? Like when I started to act from that place, that's when things started to happen and the momentum started to build. And ultimately what led to the most success So yeah, it's been such an interesting journey. Yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah, and it's so inspiring, Carrie. And I really appreciate you sharing so honestly, because I think for a lot of people, they have similar experiences to you where they are successful on paper in terms of people look like they're successful, like sitting at a table with Prince Andrew or winning an award. And they think they're lying to everyone because they've got that voice inside their head thinking, but I'm not making any money. And I can
Yeah,
personally relate to that with people coming to me thinking I'm more successful and more wealthy than I am. And I really struggled with that at first because I used to think, well, no, but I'm just me. Like someone would come over and say, oh, Chloe, I love your dress. And I'm like, oh, it's only Primark. You know, I had to feel like I had to say that
yeah,
sort of thing to them and justify it. And so I think it's inspiring to hear it, even from your perspective of that. And I massively relate to the letting go of the financial side. I think when we focus on that, it can actually make us more miserable
yeah.
and put more pressure on.
Well, I think you make different decisions. You sometimes make decisions from a place of lack because you want more money, and then they might not be the decisions you'd make if you just kind of like gave yourself permission to just make the decision that feels like the right decision, if that makes sense. But again, like I think everyone's on their own unique journey, and like I said, like look at my first business. Like I started it because I needed the money, and yeah, it was, and it did become a successful business. It wasn't anywhere near as successful as FEA, but it was successful. But it was like, for me back then, I wasn't doing something I loved. I was doing something just to make money. But I think this is the other point where I feel like it's important not to put so much pressure on ourselves to have it all figured out, or to have this perfect idea, or to have this my soul is on fire idea. Because like, if I hadn't started that first business doing something that I didn't love, doing something just to make money, I would never have got to the point in my journey where FEA would have come to me. Like, it wouldn't have come to me. And so I think we have to give ourselves permission to just kind of get started where we're at. And I remember in those early days of before I started FEA, buying other people's products to sell. Like I remember buying like resale rights bundles and other things, because it felt easier trying to find and sell other people's things than my own things. And so I think just getting started, doing whatever you can just to try and build some momentum, get some experience, can be really like a really good idea. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think there isn't just one right pathway, is there, to creating success or building a successful business. Like, and I think that's also kind of a little frustrating thing that I have around like the internet today, because I think there are so many people online who are like, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you have to follow what I'm saying, and you need to do it like this, otherwise it's not going to work. And I just think that's absolute bullshit. Like, it is not true. And I think it makes then a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm failing because I'm not doing it like that, or it gives them massive shiny object syndrome because they're doing it one way, but then someone else over here is telling them they actually have to do it a different way. And I just think you end up like disconnecting from your own intuition and what your own voice is telling you. So yeah, I just think you just have to trust yourself and trust your own journey, and yeah, take advice from other people, but no one else can dictate or really tell you what to do.
Yeah, definitely. You took the words right out of my mouth, Carrie. I was just about to go there because I see that in the industry all the time. And I think to add on to what you've said, you're right. It means that people feel like they're doing it wrong if they're not doing it exactly the same way. It also creates an element of like codependence. Like, I'm not going to think for myself. So I've done it exactly the steps that Chloe's told me to do, for example, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because everyone relies on that exact magic pill.
Yeah.
Rather than working it out and going, well, I'm going to take steps 1 to 5 from there, and then I'm going to make it my way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just interesting. I think that obviously the industry's just evolved so much though over the past few years, especially since COVID, and then there's that boom of on everything online. Like it's just been interesting.
Definitely. And a lot of adapting, right? Now, Carrie, you went on obviously FEA is absolutely flourished. You've also gone on to create multiple other businesses. Carrie & Co is definitely one that I'm not gonna lie, I've been following for a little while now because I'm dying to get my new stationery to arrive.
Oh.
So where did your love for Carrie & Co, for anyone that hasn't heard about it, your incredible stationery brand, where did that come from?
So around before I even started the Female Entrepreneur Association, one of my original ideas was actually putting a subscription box together and filling it with like inspirational products and stationery for women in business. And I had this dream, and I remember wanting to do stationery and also wanted to do like candles. And me and my dad went around this, like, in fact, I went to multiple different candle making places of like how to make candles and stuff. So I'd had the dream to create physical products like before FEA had become anything, but I felt like it just didn't feel like the right time, because I realized that to create physical products, I needed to have cash. It was going to cost a lot of money. I didn't have an audience to sell them to. So it just didn't feel like it was the right thing to do right then. And then in 2017, I really wanted to have a business planner. There was lots of planners, but there wasn't really anything that was like geared towards businesses where you could like review the previous year, plan out that year, like break down your quarter, think of all the stats and the things you want to track every month. Like it just didn't exist. And so I remember talking to my brother and saying like, we should create this. And so we did. And I remember we placed an order for 500 journals, and we were like, oh my God, this might be a bit too much. Like, I just don't know if we can do it. And then I think in the end, we increased it to like 600, and they sold out in 2 weeks when we put them on pre-sale. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then, yeah, since then we've just kind of evolved the planners and evolved the stationery range. And it's definitely a passion project. Like, it's so different to build like a physical product business as opposed to an online digital business. Like, I love the fact that you can physically see and feel a physical product. So you take this idea that was in your head and it actually becomes something you get to hold in your hands. And I love that. And I love the fact that you can create these real experiences for people where, you know, some of the stories of the people that buy the stationery, they like are hilarious. They like literally like jump all over and the postman, and like the stories are so funny of them knowing that the stationery is on their, you know, on its way to them. And I love that people get so excited about it. So we try and like make it an amazing experience where even the packaging box looks amazing. So it's been so fun from that perspective, but obviously, you know, the profit margins are tiny in comparison to what you experience when you're creating a digital product. And so it's kind of stayed as like a side passion project, just because we can reach more people, impact more people through and scale it more easily when it's like the digital side. So I think it'll be fun to do more. We've actually just launched our dream book and our 5-year journal, which has been so fun and looks so beautiful. We just actually got back from a trade show this week, to like a wholesale trade show, which was so fun. It was really nice to see people who didn't know of us like look at the products and like share their feedback. Was amazing. But yeah, it's such a different business experience. So
yeah, I can imagine. And like different challenges, right? It's like sometimes we get, I wouldn't say get comfortable, business is always changing, but you know the online world so well. You've been building websites from even when Dreamweaver was around to now, you know, it's kind of like can get a bit like, yeah, I think I know this area.
Yeah.
So let me try something totally different with a whole different load of learning.
But I also think in doing that and like following what feels good and just going for it, even if it doesn't make the most like commercial sense, I think that like you just don't know what opportunities or what conversations going to arise. Like we were at this trade show and you know, ended up having conversations there with people that led to other random things that were, I could never have anticipated those conversations would have come up, that I do think will have like a massive impact in another area of the business. Or for example, like we run a program called Create and Sell, and we first ran that program in 2021. And I actually didn't particularly enjoy running the program, to be honest. It just felt heavy for me. And But however, when we ran that program, I realized like all the tech issues that women were having when it came to like actually getting their course created or getting their, you know, online business off the ground. And I said to my team, like, we cannot run this program again if we can't figure out a solution for this tech problem. And so remember, we went around to like all these different tech platforms asking if we could like partner with them or anything. And there was like a no. And so we ended up creating our own tech platform. And that like platform would never have been created had we not gone for it with the Create and Sell program, which I kind of was like, I had reservations about. But it's funny how everything, you just don't know. Sometimes you just have to trust, like, trust what's coming to you and just kind of like go with it. Because you just don't know, what's going to come out of it, what ideas are going to be sparked, or what conversations you're going to have that are going to lead to something that you just can't foresee. So, yeah.
And also I find with that, what we think is success can also change. Right.
Yeah.
So like you say, we can think of something's going to work and it might work and it might not feel the same, or it just totally doesn't work, but actually we've met the success anyway.
Yeah.
What would you say,
definitely.
Carrie, is your definition of success? Like, how do you measure success now, and has it changed?
I feel like success is, for me, just being able to make a difference and like do something good in the world, but also have the financial security to be able to give my family an amazing life and to do fun things and to give back. To be fair, like, this is actually something that I have struggled with in the sense, like, over the past few years, because I set out with all these big goals of the things I wanted to achieve, like write a book, build a really successful business. I wanted to be able to build my own house. I wanted to have kids, you know, get married, blah, 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 like all these things. And then I realized that I'd kind of done it all. And I was like, oh, like, well, what's next? And it's actually been oddly challenging. And I remember having a conversation with someone last year and they were like, why don't you just like live the dream now? And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a really good thing to do. But then there's a part of me that's like, but I can't stop, because then what if everything starts falling behind, and then I'm not growing the business, and then I can't sustain everything. And so it's then you're like on this hamster wheel of like trying to sustain the dream, and you're just like, what? Like, and then obviously I've got 2 little kids now, and I'm like, this is just, you know, it's different. And so it is really interesting how like dreams and, you know, success can change. And it's just, I think it's just a really interesting one. And I think there's so much mindset work that goes into it all. I think this is part of the conversation I was having with someone yesterday. It's like, you know, maybe it's not about creating like a really successful business where it makes millions and millions. Maybe it's actually just deciding that, you know what, X amount would be the perfect amount to live off for us to do this, and this, and realizing it's way less than what you actually thought. So yeah, I kind of like battle with myself, because it's just like, I think everyone wants to make progress. Everyone wants to kind of keep creating growth. And like sometimes I think success gets confused, like growth gets confused for success, but it's not. Like, that's not, because it's like, what's the point in creating growth if you're just stressed and you don't have the time to spend with your kids? I remember having a conversation with someone this year, and this guy was talking about how something about how CEOs like always have to make massive sacrifices, and that they can't like go to all their kids' events at school, and, you know, often miss a lot of family events and all this stuff. And I thought, I'll be bloody damned if that's me. No, thank you. And so I think that definitely since having kids, it's kind of made me relook at things and think, how can the business flow with more ease? And maybe it's not about growing, because I quite frankly don't have the time. Like, or it's like, who do we need to hire to do it, because I can't do it. So yes, anyway, that was a really long-winded answer to your question about success, but I just don't think it's a straightforward thing.
Yeah, it's not. And I think you're right, it always changes, doesn't it? And it might change on the business needs, but it might change on our personal needs, like you talked about, having a family. And I'll be honest with you, Harry, it's one thing that I'm in a position, and most of my audience know this anyway, where I haven't got kids yet, but I'm definitely starting to think about it. And there's a part of me where I'm like, oh God, but what about the businesses, and how will, having a job, okay, great, I'm gonna have a year off, and still the job will still be there when I come back, but not the same to be said for when you run your own business. How was that journey for you, if you don't mind sharing, becoming a mum, still having these incredible businesses and dealing with those changes?
Hard. Like, I think when I had my son, I had a team, which was amazing, and I had a membership, which was amazing because it was generating recurring revenue. And I remember I took a lot of time off, and like I would be available for the odd call, but I do feel like I wasn't present for the business at all. I do remember feeling guilty and that panic of like, I'm going to fall behind. And that kind of panic that started to creep in, because I remember we went on holiday when my son was like maybe 3 months old, and it was the January, and we had our best financial month ever. But I look back, and all I remember is feeling panicked. And so I remember as the months went by, I just was like, I just want to be a mum. And I felt like FEA had been something that I was so clear on. I had such a clear mission and vision on it. And it meant like, it meant so much to me. But then all of a sudden I had a baby, and it was like, I just changed so much. It's something else mattered way more all of a sudden. And the business felt insignificant. Like I didn't want to show up anymore and talk about anything. Like I just didn't have anything to say anymore. I didn't know what I felt like I'd lost my voice, and like it just didn't feel like it mattered to me anymore. And which is then really hard, because it's like, how can you show up and make a podcast or do a video when you don't really care? Like I struggle to operate if I'm like being inauthentic. I remember making a kind of like a comeback video when he was 8 months old. And I remember feeling like, yeah, I'm ready for this. I was so not ready. And then when he was like just over 12 months, I ended up getting pregnant again. And then it went into the pandemic. And then it was all a really weird time. And I've had phases where I've been like really inspired and like on it and working. And then phases where I'm like, oh, just the motivation isn't there anymore. My inspiration isn't there anymore. And it's been really challenging to try and figure that out. And I've just like, I've done all sorts. Like I've like worked with like different people, and like had like crystal singing bowls sessions and all sorts to try and be like, how do I find my way back to myself, where I can be a mum and also have a mission and something that I want to do. I'm so grateful because we actually have an office, which is so good, because I could not work from home anymore now that Casey's nearly 5 and Marley just turned 3. So like now they're that age, like it's just impossible when they're around to actually work. So yeah, it's been a really interesting experience. And I now probably work like 4 days a week. So I drop the kids off in the morning. Marley's just started preschool. And on Friday is my fun day, which is now with Marley, because Casey is actually in reception now. So it's like I take Fridays off, I take the weekends off. I want to get home by 5:30 so I can have dinner with the kids and then do bath and bedtime. And then I want to hang out with my husband so it's so different to before that, when I would be working like all hours of the day. I'd be working on the weekends. I'd never stop thinking about my business. When we went on a holiday, I was constantly daydreaming about my business. I was constantly coming up with ideas. I was constantly connecting with where I wanted to go next, my vision. Now going on holiday, I'm running around after kids. Like, there was no time to even think about business. The weekends, there was no time to think about business. Like, so it's so different. Like, I don't get that space to dream and to think, which has been, again, like hard to navigate, because I think when you're building a business, you have to be that dreamer. You are that visionary. If you don't have blooming space to be the visionary, then it's just a challenge. So yes, that's not very positive, is it, what I just said? But I just think it's the truth. And I feel like with the situation I was in, because I've seen people who've had kids and then it's lit a fire under them and they've got so inspired to build a business. That was just not my story. I was just like, let's pump the brakes here. I just want to be a mom. And I feel like they're a little bit older now, and I kind of feel like I found my way back to the business a bit more. But like, it's nothing like it was before. Like, it's definitely not on any level like before. And I hope that one day it all slots into place. But yeah, it's not yet. Like, nearly 5 years in, and it still hasn't slotted into place for me. But it's still like, all that said, I am immensely grateful that I have an online business, because it enabled me to live a life that I would not be able to live if I didn't. Like, the freedom it has created. Yet, yes, there is so much pressure and stress some of the time, a lot of the time. But like, because I am the breadwinner for my family. My husband is a stay-at-home dad, which is amazing, but that means the pressure is on me. I mean, obviously, like, if I'd said one day I'm going to quit, he would obviously help figure out with me. But it is on me. And but aside from that, like, it creates freedom. We're able to do amazing things. Like, we're able to go on amazing holidays. My husband's from California, so we just spent all of August in California. And, you know, I couldn't do that if I had a job. And I still get to make a difference, even though half the time I don't even feel like the best version of myself anymore. But yeah, so I am really grateful for this situation, and that's what I do try and come back to, is just being grateful for what I do have, and the life that I've created for myself, because it's so easy to get sucked into the pressure or the stress, or it's not working for this reason, and forget about actually how bloody incredible it actually is. That's just a reminder to myself after I just verbal diarrhea about all the bad stuff. Bringing it back to the positives.
Yeah, I love it, Carrie. I think you're right though, and it is always just navigating this new platform, right? And I don't mean platform being social media side. It's like this new life that we've got. You know, we all adapt in different ways, and it's about finding the gratitude in the bits that we have now. But
yeah,
I totally agree that often it's so easy to just keep looking forward and going, well, why isn't this the same way, or why isn't this working, or whatever, rather than looking back and going, can you believe I did all of that?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's looking back and going, I've had children and I've still got, you know, these incredible businesses, but it's so easy for us to look forward and not necessarily look back.
Yeah. And it's just easy to I don't know what's wrong with people. I say people, I mean myself sometimes. Like last year when we launched FEA Create, it has become incredible. We have over 1,000 users on the platform. It's an incredible platform that's helping so many women, that's generated this amazing revenue stream. And I still think that I've done nothing over the past year. So sometimes I'm just like, what is going on? Like, but I think so many of us are like that, where we just don't acknowledge the progress we're making or the things we're doing, because we're actually so focused on, and this is why I do my crystal singing bowls and I work with people and do the Reiki, because I'm like, sort me out, please sort me out, because I need to get myself into a better place where I'm not like focusing on this other stuff that's not helping me to attract in what I want to attract in. So just forever working on myself.
Yeah, aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's not always just like the traditional mentorship side and like the business focus. It's actually sometimes the more personal side, or like you say, not the traditional mentoring, but more of the healing or therapies or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, Carrie, obviously you've gone on to be a fantastic mentor for a lot of women. Who's mentored you or guided you on your many years in business?
My dad. My dad's always been like a really amazing sounding board. Though obviously he's from a different era. And so he was always like, Gary, you need an office, you can't work virtually. And I was like, what are you talking about? You don't know anything. And then eventually I got the office, and then 3 weeks later it was the pandemic, and then I was like, oh crap. And now he's working from home, and he's like, working from home is amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, like I've got the office now, you're working from home, what is going on? But he's definitely been an amazing sounding board. And there's definitely been people that have come and gone throughout the years. That have helped me at specific moments, like people for for example, I've hired mentors for help me with very specific things in the business, like growing the membership. And I've worked with I think the people that I've worked with the most, the person that I've worked with probably the most consistently over all the time is somebody in Australia called Michelle Simmons. And she has helped me with more of the mindset overwhelm piece of just I just blab to her all the things I'm feeling overwhelmed by, and then or sometimes there's little readings for me, or we do tapping, and that's been really helpful. But yeah, I think I haven't had a business coach that's been there consistently helping me grow. I think it's just been a lot of different people at times when I've needed those people. I think I also just live in my own little bubble of trying just with my own ideas, with my own thoughts, and although sorry, that being said, I have been part of masterminds over the years as well, which has again been helpful to just meet and connect with like-minded people. So yeah, it's just kind of been a bit up and down. It's not been necessarily consistent working with somebody. So there's not one person that I can think of that has been a mentor.
I think that's also a very strategic way of doing it, because I think a lot of people can get codependent and start relying on one person to guide them the whole journey. Whereas it's a bit like, I mean, I'm not really into gym or fitness as much as I would love to be, but a lot of people, you train in one area with one personal trainer, and then you move on to another if you want to go to a different level. Or same way with business, it's strategic. It's like, I need help with this particular problem in my business. I'm going to be coached or mentored by that person, and then I'm going to move on to this part if there's this challenge, rather than one person the whole way, because it's not a one size fits all journey. I don't think.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, Carrie, you've then gone on to mentor lots of people as well. So I'm curious, Carrie, you've got FEA, Carrie & Co, and FEA Creates. What's next for Carrie Green?
Streamlining and systemizing. So fun. I don't know. I'm just honestly just trying to figure out how to grow everything with more ease, and so that I've got more space for bringing in the next ideas and to be more creative. I think that the past few years have also been a lot around team building, which is just not a skill set of mine, and has been such a struggle and a challenge for me, and I think it is for so many people actually. But yeah, I think because of that, I've not had the space for myself, so it'll be good. It is coming together now, and so I think it'll be good to just kind of really finish up this work around that, so that we can move forward in a way that feels so good and create space for me to dream up the next thing. So we shall see.
Fantastic. I can't wait to hear more. Well, Carrie, it's been amazing having you on the show. You've been truly inspiring and sharing so much of your journey. And so Nick James, fantastic recommendation to put us in touch and introduce you to the show. Now, Carrie, we've got a routine on the show, a tradition, if you will, where the current guest gets to recommend someone that has an inspiring story that you think would be great on our show next. Who do you think you could recommend?
I feel like there's lots of inspiring people. I am desperately trying to think of a person for you. um, the person that's really popping into my head is somebody that I really admire. Do you know Rebecca Campbell? You might not. So she has an online business, but she is more like in the like spiritual side of things. So she has an amazing membership that I'm part of, where she does like meditations and all sorts of stuff. And she's a big Hay House author as well. Like she's got like a lot of amazing books. And she, especially for me this year, she's somebody that has really inspired me, and like I've just been obsessed with her membership. So I would say Rebecca Campbell.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Carrie. I love that recommendation. I love a bit of spirituality. Now, I think it's a really important part of our businesses is to just get more spiritual within ourselves. So thank you so much for that recommendation.
Oh, you're welcome.
Brilliant. And obviously to anyone of our listeners and viewers who are tuning into the Inspired by Show, I would highly recommend following Carrie if you're not already, and finding out more about all of the incredible projects that she's working on. Carrie, thanks again for being here. I know it's tough with the amount of different projects you've got on, so I really appreciate you making time to come on the Inspired by Show today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun.
No problem. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I will be back next week for more Inspired by with many more inspiring guests. We'll see you then.